light on us throws. He's a man we all talk of, but nobody knows. And though I subject, I'm getting in tune. I'll just sing a song for the man in the moon.
Hi, I'm Owen from the English Folk Dance and Song Society, and I'm here with Fay Hield, who will be performing at Cecil Sharp House on the 10th of May as part of the last ever full English tour. So Fay, tell us a bit about yourself. Who are you?
Okay, hello, I'm Fay. I am a singer and an ethnomusicologist, which is a very long word, but basically means studying music and culture at universities. So that's me, and I live in Sheffield, and I live with my partner John Bowden, who plays in Bellahead, and we've got 2 kids.
And what is this full English project that we're all talking about all the time?
Yeah, well, a phenomenal project that started, I believe, with Malcolm Taylor at the Vaughan Williams Library, and he wanted to take all their archive collections, which are fabulous but hard to access and hard to explore if you don't live in London or have got the time to get into the archives there. So his big brainwave was to scan it all and turn it into this wonderful digital portal into the archive. So yeah, the collection itself is over 58,000 scans of scrapbooks, notebooks, songs, lyrics, notations, diary entries from the collectors who were getting together all this folk song and dance and music material around the start of the last century.
And how did you come to be involved in the project?
Well, they asked me to put together some songs, well, to dig around in the archive and find some material to sing at the launch of the big website. So they'd put all this stuff together, a huge amount of work with loads of voluntary labour, I think, to get it ready, and then the day that they released it on the world, they wanted me to go and sing.
And then from that came, it wasn't just you, was it? It was a big band that appeared. So what was the idea behind that?
Well, they first came up with a bit of money for me to do that one gig, which seemed good, and I accepted it. I thought it was a great idea. It was really nice to get an opportunity to look at what was happening there and to dig around with some new material. It was great. So it was great, but then I was a bit worried that just my perspective on it wasn't going to be quite enough, and I wanted some other musicians in. And then I got a bit excited thinking we could have a few more singers in as well, and it'd be great to be a very vocal group. So then it just sort of kept escalating, and I wanted a few different people with different musical styles, people who I thought would do a very different job to me, to go in and find stuff, but then in a way that we'd all hold it together as one band.
So who did you end up with?
Well, I ended up with exactly who I wanted, which is great. And I've got Martin Simpson, who's a fabulous sort of American-style fingerpicker guitarist, but from Lincolnshire, great roots in English tradition, but also takes it in a very different direction. And Nancy Kerr, who's a fabulous English traditional singer and songwriter as well, and song creator, very engaged in producing new materials, and fabulous fiddle player. And Seth Lakeman, again, fabulous singer, really rooted in the English tradition, but a lot of people see him more in the pop edge. You know, he got his Mercury nomination and that. So, but he is fabulously interested and really dedicated to the repertoire. So I was keen. None of those musicians would make music that sounded like each other, and none of them sounded like me. And I thought, well, let's put that all together in a band. And then, of course, some other instrumentalists too. So Sam Sweeney, fabulous fiddle player, and all sorts of instruments actually. Rob Harbron, brilliant English concertina player, and Ben Nichols, who's a really funky bass player and really interested in researching songs too. He's got his own project on whaling songs going at the moment. So they're all people who are fascinated by the tradition and the process really of looking at old music and turning it back into contemporary sound.
It's quite rare these days to see you, or indeed John half the time, without Sam and Rob behind you. But how did that partnership come about?
Oh, I love them. We just keep them in the cupboard and let them out now and then. No, we don't. They're very independent people with fabulous careers of their own. Well, how did that happen? I don't know. Well, when I first made my first album, because I'm a singer primarily and I can dabble in other instruments, but I wouldn't want to record them. So I worked closely with John on my first album, and then we got Sam in as well. But then, because we've got the kids, I didn't want to tour with John, so we needed somebody to come in to replace John, and Rob was a really obvious choice because he's just phenomenal. Really, he's an incredible musician, and he's just fabulous. What he can do chordally, and his knowledge of music is phenomenal. So he's really brilliant to get in. So I worked as a trio with Salmon Rob in the early days, and you get a real kind of bond, I think, being on the road with people and working with people. So I do actually love them. You know, they're really dependent on them. They're my musical buddies, my go-to people. I feel safe. I can make music. I know I can sing because I know that they're there and they'll pick it up. So for this project, I didn't want to work with a load of random people who make music completely different to me. I needed to know I had that glue in there as well that was going to keep everything together and make it be brilliant. But they're also so virtuosic themselves as well that they're just, why wouldn't you? Once you've started working with them, there isn't been a project I haven't wanted to. And John, I guess, feels the same, yeah, because they're great.
I remember you saying in an interview when you were launching the Hurricane Party album that you chose those people because you wanted the right people rather than the right instruments necessarily. Was that the same with Full English? Or?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I'm not looking for our bass player or our this. It's about what people do. Mm-hmm. There's no point. It's not like classical music where you're writing for instruments. In this, it's about chemistry and people. Yes, and it's very much been the same. But the difference with this project was that I was specifically looking for people with different chemistries, so it was quite a gamble really. It could have been horrendous. It could have been really difficult. You put 4 from people in a band. They're typically the people with the ego, I don't know how to say it politely, but it could have been a real battle, and I'm very, very relieved and delighted to say that everybody worked beautifully together, and it did gel as a group, and we did form a band.
So you've got the band together, all ready to dig into this archive. So how do you go about finding material when there are so many tens of thousands of manuscripts in there? Yeah,
well, I didn't look at the archive at all to start with. I looked at what the archive was made up of, moved it up a level really. So who were the collectors, what collectors were in there, what kinds of songs were in there, what kinds of material, songs, tunes, dances, plays. So I kind of categorised it all in my sort of little category way, and I probably did an Excel spreadsheet at this time because that's my go-to sort of method. And then I wanted to make sure there was representation across it all. By this point, because I knew I had those people together, I knew we weren't just doing one gig. You can't ask all those people to develop all that material for once and then lose it. So I knew we were making an album. So by then I was looking at it in terms of an album. So basically 12 tracks, 4 lead singers, instrumentalists. What have we got? We wanted to cover Cecil Sharp, obviously, because he was really significant. We wanted to cover a good spread, but I think there were 9 collectors there then, and we haven't managed to cover every collector, but we have doubled up on a few of those, but we've got quite a good spread. Northern, southern collectors, male, female collectors, upper class, working class collectors, so that we'd have something different to say about each thing really. And in terms of the songs, we've got broadsides, we've got lyrical ballads, we've got silly songs, shanties. So again, trying to make sure there's coverage over the whole thing, spreading them out between people. And then so once we knew that, then it was quite easy to see who was going to do what. For example, Martin Simpson, Lincolnshire, is really drawn to the work of Percy Granger, who collected there and in his hometown. So it just made sense that he did something on that material. Seth was very keen on the broadsides, they're very dynamic songs, so it made sense that he did some work in that area. So yeah, so then it narrowed it down, so it made it a bit more manageable.
And how did you then go about arranging the material as a band?
Well, we basically owned a song or 2 each, or a tune set each, and worked those up individually or in smaller groups. So instead of everybody having ownership on everything, which could have got a bit committeefied and going to the lowest possible denominator because everybody just agrees low down, we had sort of basically artistic directors in each song. And so I think Seth and Ben worked on some stuff when they were on tour. I worked on some stuff with Martin and Nancy in Sheffield because we all live here. I worked on some stuff with Rob and Sam when we were on the road. So we did it in little pods, and then we all came together because it's quite difficult finding time for that group to come together. So the whole group rehearsal was quite intensive, and we had a couple of periods of 2 or 3 days where we came and said, right, this is what we've got. So usually there'd be, because the stuff in the archive, we should go back a bit. The stuff in the archive is it's not a score with a set of lyrics and music, and there you go, that's what you do. So you might have fragments of lyrics, so people had to write tunes, they had to write choruses, they had to edit verses together, they had to take 2 or 3 versions and create a song. So there's quite a lot of work to do. That was done individually, really. And then we'd come together and play the version that had come out of it, and then work out whether we were going to have string sections, and then sort of put it together.
There are a couple of songs on the album which aren't in the archive. Nancy wrote a song, and Lyndon Lee.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What was the idea behind including those songs on an album called The Full English?
Yes, well, the full English is a bit tricky for me as a nitpicky academic. In the first place, the is fine with the. And then this is the full idea. The idea that it's a complete bounded entity is quite problematic with something like a tradition. So I'm not criticising the archive in any way whatsoever, because that's what that has to be. You know, it is physically the scans that are there does mean that is what it is, and that's fine, but that is not the sum of all the music that has happened in England since the 1800s. So I just wanted to make sure there was something in there which meant in the set I could say that, because I didn't want people to believe that they weren't allowed to make new songs or do anything else. So that was the purpose of having Nancy in the band in the first place. So her new song is a response to the collection. And Lyndon Lee is it's a dialect poem written by a guy called William Barnes from Dorset, and then put to music by Ralph Vaughan Williams. So he is somebody who's in the collection, so he did contribute to it, but it was all done before he'd found folk music as well. So it's all a bit, it's related, but it's different, and it's not officially in the collection. Yeah. So that's the fullness. There's also the English idea as well, and the idea of what is the Englishness about this collection. So that really fed into our repertoire as well, choice. So we've got songs from Scotland, we've got songs collected in America by people from England and Scotland and Wales and Ireland who've been over there. So we're quite keen to make sure that the idea is, it's not about getting back to the roots of Englishness, it's about representing the tapestry of what Englishness can mean. So bringing everything into the amalgamation of an English culture rather than trying to find the root of an English culture. That's quite important, I think, to everybody in the band.
So you're currently working on a new album. Have you gone digging in the archive much to find material for that?
I've got some from there, yes, but I've also moved away from it because that was a brilliant project, but I don't want anyone to think my new album is the Full English too, you know? So, and again, it touches on that thing of the fullness of it, that it's a brilliant resource, but there's also loads of wonderful archives all over the country. But yes, so from the archive I've got, what should I get, The Willow Glen, which is a lovely song, a broadside from the Kidson collection, and I first put that together actually for a Radio 3 programme which was discussing how willow has been used in folklore and folk tales. So it was perfect to just go, okay, I need a song about willow, just go to the website, search engine willow, and then it comes up. So thank you, EFDSS, for that, that's perfect. So I got that one, and The Hornet and the Beetle as well, I'm hoping will be in the album. I wanted that in the Full English set, but it never quite worked. It's a comic song about how terrible lawyers are, but I loved it. And that was caught my eye because it was all handwritten by the singer. Vaughan Williams had been to collect the song, but because Vaughan Williams was just interested in the music, he just had noted down the melody of it. And the singer obviously felt that he ought to have the words, so he posted in the words. And they've been separated, so I couldn't find the original tune, but I've just got this lovely handwritten, big, sort of ornate capitals title, and it's a beautiful piece of work. So that's the beauty of the archive, is that you can go and be inspired by the actual materials of it, rather than just the songs or the words.
Why do you think these strange songs and tunes are worth the effort of preserving and of singing? Because they're quite far removed from most other music around today in the UK. What makes them worth the effort? Well,
lots of them there isn't, and lots of them are rubbish. And I wouldn't sing most of the 58,000, I wouldn't work up. There's a great collection by Harry Albino in there, and they're the dirtiest songs, but they're not, they're crude, they're sort of like the Frankie Howard of folk songs, you know, they're just a bit titillating, but not quite, so I wouldn't go near them. They're hilarious, but no, thank you. But it's worth preserving, but you don't necessarily have to utilise everything. And maybe in another 50 years that will be the humour that the world has got, and then they will be useful again. But the songs I sing, I enjoy them. I find them entertaining, or I find them morally uplifting, or I find them interesting, or I find them a bit dark, but I quite like that, you know, so I engage with them. There's only any point to doing anything artistic if you engage with it. There's no point just reproducing it, teaching kids at school by rote something because it's their heritage. If they don't engage with it, it's not their heritage, it's just a bit of something going on. So I wouldn't say it is all just valuable just because it exists. I think you have to make it valuable.
Yeah. There have been so many times when I've been looking at songs and you start singing through a new song and think, oh, this is great. Oh no, it's a wife beating song.
Yeah.
I'm singing that song.
Yeah. We'll just change it, turn it into something else, rewrite it. We changed the moral at the end of Awake Awake because of that. It's become a bit of a feminist number now. But yeah, because she was just a bit, oh no, he's left me, or me. And now, I can't remember, she's just a bit uplifted in the end. So just a little tweak here and there, and then that makes it yours, and then it makes it relevant, and then that's why it's important.
Yeah. So, once this full English tour is over, and that whole project's out of your hair, what have you got planned for the next few months?
Well, the new album, really. Yes, I'll be recording that in June, July. So, yeah, just working up ideas around that. The music's kind of happening, and that's great, but again, I've got another sort of idea for... I'm trying to look at it... Again, it's this idea of making it relevant. I want to know why the arts are so important, basically. So you've got sport, and we're not all going to be Linford Christie, we're not all going to be the top world's high jumper, we're not all going to do this, but we are all encouraged to do exercise. Why, we're not all going to be Tracy Emin, we're not all going to, you know, paint like Van Gogh, but why aren't we all encouraged to be creative and do expressive arts? That's my kind of question, and I want to know, I think we should be, basically, and I want to know why I think we should be. And so what is it about engaging with the arts, about being creative, about making stories, about hearing stories and engaging with that sort of stuff? How does that help us? You know, what does that give us? And it's sort of about being human, I think. It's about exploring humanity, and so these stories, how does engaging with them and understanding feminism, or understanding wife beating or murdering your siblings, or it gives you the limit, how people respond to those songs gives you the limit of what's acceptable in that society. I'm not suggesting it's ever acceptable to murder your siblings, but how funny people find it, or how appropriate it is to sing in certain settings gives you that sense of morality. So yeah, they're all kind of stories that look at that kind of thing anyway.
Sounds really interesting.
It is, I think. I hope so.
So in October, you're running a full English weekend with Soundpost. Tell us a bit about that.
Yes. So we thought it would be really interesting. We've had some of the musicians involved in the band go and talk about the process of working it up, a bit like these questions you've asked me now. So we did that at a conference in Cardiff last year, but I thought it would be interesting for other musicians. It's all very well for us to say to people, right, so there you go, that's what we've done with it, your turn now. That's the point of us now, is that we hand over, we give up, that's why it's the final tour. It's not our job to just keep doing it, it's everybody else's job to get on with it. So rather than just throwing them there it is, off you go, I thought it might be interesting to have a weekend where we do workshops, talk about the process, how we've done it, talk about the learning programme that EFDSS have done as well, so going into schools and how it can be used, how the archive can be used by lots of different people. So it should be a brilliant weekend. There's loads of people coming, 4 of the members of the band are there, and Martin Carthy's coming down, Pete Coe's coming, so other musicians that have worked with this stuff as well, obviously. And so there's lots of parallel sessions, stuff for singers and musicians and teachers and performers, all sorts, lots of singing, lots of playing, lots of workshops. That'll be brilliant.
Yeah, it's quite an impressive list of tutors, I thought.
Yeah.
It looks really exciting.
Well, we've run them before as a singing weekend or a fiddle weekend. So, and they're always just brilliant. We all descend on this little village in North Sheffield and just take over. It's pretty intense, actually. So we just want to give people ideas and get them thinking. It's not about learning how to do that role, it's about thinking, it's about inspiring people, really. So, yeah, people have had quite cathartic experiences coming, so it's brilliant, it's really good. So it's the first time we've done it not just on a generic instrument or voice, it's about the archive. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
That's good. Go on.